Hey, sorry I just walked in. I knocked, but I guess you were listening to your music here. I heard you were a little disappointed. You found out that that new Pokemon game, Legend ZA, is only 4 gigabytes in size. You look a little disappointed. But, son, when I first met your mother, she also thought that 4 gigabytes was quite small. And I had to explain to your mother that that's only on the Switch 1. On the Switch 2, that 4 gigabytes actually extends out to 7.7 gigabytes. Now, when I was your age, a long, long time ago, we didn't care about file sizes. We only cared about how fun a game was. Could you play the game with your friends? Could you share the game with your friends? That was a long time ago. And file sizes really had nothing to do with it. But these days, son, really what contributes to file sizes are the textures. Now, when I was your age, I know I keep saying that, but when I was your age, what really caused games to have large file sizes were things called FMVs. I remember them. That was a good time. An FMV stands for full motion video. That means that the console of the game itself wasn't really all that good. And what developers had to do was make basically what were little animated movies. Those little animated movies, boy, they sure took up a lot of space. Some games needed 3, 4 discs, and they really caused the file size to inflate, but really the game itself had a much smaller file size. Now these days, 3D models, the actual data that defines the levels, the environments, those things don't actually take up that much space. And son, when you get older, you will learn something called texture compression. And texture compression is a way that developers are able to implement their texture graphics. Those are the things that you see. The ground, the trees, the monsters, all of that 3D modeling, the geometry has textures on it. And those textures these days are what really take up the most amount of data. Now, a long, long time ago when I was your age, I know, I say this a lot, but I am quite old, son. And when I was your age, textures really only were made up of one image file, like I think you kids call it a JPEG or a PNG these days. And so, back then, textures were only defined by one, but these days, modern developers create materials, and sometimes they can use up to 5, 6, or 7 image files to contribute to one material, one texture for your single object in the environment. So you see, texture sizes can vary, but these days people expect large, high-resolution textures, and that really is what causes these textures to contribute. Basically, they cause the game to have a large file size. Now, this new Pokemon game that you kids like, Legend ZA, it looks like that game really only takes place in one city, and they reuse a lot of textures, so there are not that many texture files. Therefore, the game is not that big when it comes to file sizes. And I know I'm saying all of this is all coming from an old person, and you won't really understand any of this until you're much older, and that's okay. But your mother wanted me to have a talk with you since you were so disappointed about the file size for the upcoming Pokemon game. But I just want you to remember, son, it is not the size that matters. 4 gigabytes is not that small. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And it does extend out to 7.7 gigs. And 7.7, as you'll learn and when you get older, is pretty impressive. 7.7 is pretty impressive. I can tell you still look a little disappointed here. Let me give you some money, and why don't you buy some of yourself those V-Bucks so you can use that on that video game you kids play. What do they call that? 2 weeks? Anyway, I'll give your cassette player back. What have you got listening to here? Evangelion mixtape. What is that? Evangelion. Your mother can't hardly get you to go to church. Well, you can have this back. Oh, I'm waiting for a fax, so if you could stay off the internet, I would appreciate that.